Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another Eternal Deck Tech. And if you watched my series last week, you're probably going to know what this one is. That's right, it is Xenan Vodakombo. So this is a deck that absolutely trounced us out of nowhere last week. And it's a Vodakombo deck. But without any justice. So this is how it works. Essentially what we're going to be trying to do is get Talir down, and then immediately through either using Dark Return and getting one out of our void, or just playing one naturally, play a Ilyon Merchant. Go and get Vodakhan out of our market. Vodakhan will have Destiny. Vodakhan comes down, draws us a card. Boom. Instantly we start comboing off because every single unit and every single power in our deck draws us another card. When we have things like Temple Scribe and Amber Acolyte, so those ones will draw us multiples, or Ilyon Merchant, which also will draw us multiple cards, then you basically just draw your entire deck, or enough so much that it just doesn't really matter. And you use Katra and Sanctuary Priest at that point, because you'll draw them eventually and play quite a few sigils in a row and gain life through Temple Scribes and things like that, that you'll pump up your whole team by massive amounts. And anything that was played the turn before, so anything that was already in play, can just attack and win the game. Or if for some reason you don't have anything that was already in play, which can happen, or you just can't bust through with enough damage somehow through your opponent's board, you do have Xenan Initiation also in the market, so you can use one of the Ilyon Merchants that you're going to get to Xenan Initiation. And what you do is use Xenan Initiation in the Talir, because Talir will be like 60-60, and you can just slam that, attack one of their units, and all of the overwhelm damage goes across and into your opponent, and you can win the game that way. So a couple of different ways that you can finish out the game. The other thing you can do, because this deck does operate as essentially just a regular Xenan Life Force deck, is just curve out, play Katra, beat them to death. Same with Mask of Torment. You can also just, ultimate it, play some Tormentors, and boom, get your opponent that way. The rest of the deck is all ways to enable this. So we've got like Sanctuary Priest and Mask of Torment, because you can power up your Mask very, very quickly. And of course it works awesome with the Katra later on. So every single time you play a power, you gain life. Every time you gain life, you gain power. It doesn't go infinite or anything. Like, that's not quite the way it works. But it does get you a whole lot of power. Every single one of your sigils essentially is 2 power at that point. Initiate of the Sands to kind of just ramp out faster. We've got Temple Scribes, so we can draw, gain life, all that kind of stuff with Mask of Torment. Amber Acolyte, like we said, is 2 draw spells essentially off of Talir and Vodakombo once you actually have the whole thing going. It's also really nice early on because you want to get to 8 so you have Talir. You'll want to do that through Mask of Torment, but if you can't, sometimes you want to have Amber Acolytes to make sure that you can draw enough power. Ilyon Merchant, obviously very key to the combo because it pulls a lot of things out of your market, and it's just really, really nice once you are comboing off because it can get extras. You've got Lunar Magus. Nightfall's important just for us to gain extra cards. You don't worry too much about giving extras to your opponent. It's not great. I'm always a little bit skeptical of Nightfall stuff, but it helps here. Plus, gaining a little bit of life is nice with Mask of Torment. Beckoning Lumen, same thing, just draws us a whole bunch of extra cards when we've got the Life Force stuff, and can be a big beater, because like I said, every once in a while you don't try and combo off, you just beat your opponent to death with Katra enhanced units. Katra, same thing, obviously important to the combo just as a way to kill, and also just another win condition. Then we have the spells. The spells are picked very, very carefully because of the fact that you don't want too many. If you do, then it'll interrupt the Vodakhan Talir combo, right? Because spells and attachments don't actually trigger Destiny. So we've got Dark Return, which is maybe the best card in this deck as far as units go. It's just super important. Makes it easier to play Talir and go off because you can do it with just 9 power if you've got an Ilyon Merchant in your graveyard instead of with 11. In fact, I used to have, instead of just Banishes, I also had Annihilates, and a lot of the times you'd annihilate your own Ilyon Merchant just to go for the combo that way. So you might want to do that later on. Like, it might be something that you want to test where Banish becomes Annihilate again. I'll talk about Banish in a second. Call the deck is obviously pretty important. It's just a way to set everything up. And it's nice because it doesn't really interrupt the combo with Vodakhan. Generally, you'll have at least 2 power hits as you're going off. And even if you stall out, then boom, you can just play Call the deck and keep going at that point. Vara's Favor, same kind of thing. It doesn't really stall the combo all that much because as long as you still have a Shadow Sigil in your deck, boom, you can keep going with it. And it also gives you lifesteal with Mask of Torment, helps clear out like early game problems, things like Oni Ronin or whatever if your opponent's going really fast into the paint. Then we have Banish. This is the flex spot. So I don't want to get totally run over by small creatures. I've put a couple of banishes in case of that. I mean, you can stop things like Xenan Obelisk or get rid of like Teacher. Teacher's definitely a problem for the deck. So something like Banish is nice. It could certainly go back to being something like Annihilate instead, or you could just remove it entirely and try and just play more units. There used to be Blister Sting Wasp in the deck. I changed them out for Initiate of the Sands. So if you're wondering what some of the recent changes are, that's one of the ones that I've recently swapped out. I want to just like faster draws, be able to get to 8 a little bit more easily. So we have all that. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of the deck. We're all set up and ready to go. I think that our market's pretty self-explanatory. Like we said, the Xenan Initiation's in there, Mask of Torment to help us power up if we already have a Talir. If we don't, then we can, you know, save one of our merchants for Talir and Vodakhan. So we've got lots of cool ways to just kind of go off. And yeah, we're going to see how often we can do that. Let's go.